So, let's talk about Africa. When you think of Africa, what comes to mind? Maybe lions, maybe pyramids, maybe that one Shakira song from the World Cup. Waka Waka, all great things. But here's something that should be at the top of that list. Treasure. I'm not talking about pirate chests buried on a beach, I'm talking about the ground itself. The continent is basically Mother Nature's secret vault, and she lost the key. It's bursting with stuff the whole world wants, the kind of stuff that powers your phone, builds your cities, and makes your jewelry sparkle. It's less of a continent and more of a giant, continental-sized Costco for the planet's most valuable goods. Let's get specific, because the details are mind-blowing. Think about minerals. The Democratic Republic of Congo, or the DRC, has so much cobalt, a key ingredient in the batteries for your electric car and your smartphone. We're talking over half the world's supply. The continent is literally sparkling with wealth. The great paradox. Now you'd think, with all this natural wealth, every African nation would be like Wakanda, but for real. You'd expect gleaming cities, high-speed trains everywhere, but that's not the picture we often see. Instead, we hear about poverty. We see images of struggle. We read headlines about economic instability and debt. This is the great African paradox. A continent so rich in resources, yet home to so many of the world's poorest people. It's like being the owner of the world's biggest grocery store, but your own kids are going hungry. It just doesn't add up. The numbers are stark, and they tell a story that's hard to ignore. A country like the DRC, with its trillions of dollars worth of minerals underground, consistently ranks near the bottom of the UN's Human Development Index. Nigeria is Africa's biggest oil producer, a giant in the global energy market, yet a significant portion of its population lives in extreme poverty. It's a pattern you see again and again across the continent. The wealth is there, you can see it on a geological map, but when you look at the bank accounts of the average person, it's like it vanished into thin air. It's a magic trick nobody asked for. Alright, let's get into the history, because you can't understand Africa's economic situation today without talking about the elephant in the room: colonialism. It's like trying to understand why your friend has a fear of clowns without knowing about that one traumatic birthday party. For centuries, European powers showed up in Africa not for a friendly visit, but to set up shop. Their business model was simple. Take as much as you can, for as little as you can. They weren't there to build nations, they were there to build their own empires, using Africa's resources as the bricks and mortar. This wasn't a partnership, it was a hostile takeover. The whole economic system was designed for extraction. The goal wasn't to create diverse, self-sufficient economies. No, that would be counterproductive. The goal was to turn African territories into giant open-air mines and farms for Europe: cocoa in Ghana, copper in Zambia, cotton in Mali. All the infrastructure was designed to get the raw materials from the interior to the coast, and then onto a boat heading for Europe as fast as possible. It was a one-way street, and all the traffic was going out. Then came independence. Hooray! Freedom! But it was like being handed the keys to a car that had been stripped for parts. Spoiler, yes, so you have all this treasure underground. Logically, this should be a blessing, right? But for many places, it's turned into what economists call the resource curse. It sounds dramatic, like something out of an Indiana Jones movie, but it's a very real phenomenon. Countries rich in natural resources, especially oil diamonds, minerals often end up with less economic growth, less democracy, worse development outcomes than countries with fewer resources. It's a paradox that has baffled people for years. When a country discovers a massive amount of oil diamonds, all the focus, and all the money, pours into that one sector. It's the star of the show. Why bother building up farming, manufacturing, or technology, when you can just pump oil out of the ground and get rich quick? When the price of that one commodity crashes, the whole economy crashes. Floods of cash can make the local currency stronger, but it's actually a trap that makes other exports uncompetitive. Section 5. Follow the money, or try to. It's complicated. When a giant company pays, say, $1 billion for mining rights, where does that billion actually go? This is where the story gets murky, like a detective novel with half the pages missing. In a perfect world, the money goes into the national treasury, build schools, pave roads, fund hospitals. But we don't live in a perfect world. Offshore bank accounts, shell companies, very creative accounting. A huge chunk never reaches the countries they come from. One of the biggest problems is corruption. It's the silent tax that bleeds economies dry. This isn't just a local official taking a small bribe. We're talking massive, high-level schemes. Contracts awarded not to the best company, but to the one that pays the biggest kickback to powerful politicians. The money that should build the nation's future ends up in a private bank account in Switzerland, or buying a luxury apartment in London. It's a betrayal of public trust on an epic scale. Many multinationals use legal loopholes to declare little profit locally. It drains billions every year. Before we dive into the next chapter of this story, let's pause for a quick moment. If you're finding this video helpful or eye-opening, why not show some love? Hit that like button. It really helps more people discover these important topics. And if you want to stay updated on stories about global economics history, the surprising ways they shape our world, make sure to subscribe and ring the notification bell. But that's not all. We want to hear from you. What surprised you the most about how money moves, or doesn't, when it comes to natural resources? Do you think there's a way to fix the system? Drop your thoughts and questions in the comments below. Your perspective could spark the next great discussion. Alright, ready to meet the players who make these big decisions? Let's keep going. Let's break down the cast of characters in this economic drama because it's not just one group's fault. First up, you have the national governments in Africa. These are the guys who are supposed to be the referees, the guardians of the national treasure. Their job is to negotiate the best possible deals for their people, to make sure the wealth is managed transparently, and to invest it in the country's long-term development. But when they are weak, corrupt, or lack expertise, they can sign away their country's future for a fraction of its worth. Then you have the foreign companies. These are the giant multinational corporations in mining, oil, and gas. For them, it's business. Their duty is to shareholders. They will naturally seek low taxes, relaxed regulations, and stable contracts, especially when dealing with a government that lacks bargaining power or is susceptible to corruption. They have armies of lawyers and accountants to shape deals in their favor. Foreign governments also have a role, balancing anti-corruption rhetoric with securing resources for their firms. Finally, there's a new set of players on the scene, most notably China. They build roads, bridges, and stadiums, but the deals often involve large loans and opaque contracts. It adds another layer of complexity to an already crowded stage. One of the biggest missing pieces in this whole puzzle is manufacturing. For centuries, the economic model has been to dig stuff out of the ground in Africa and ship it somewhere else to be turned into a finished product. Africa exports raw cocoa beans. Europe sells back expensive chocolate bars. Africa exports crude oil. It buys back refined gasoline. This is a recipe for staying poor. The real money, the real value, and the real jobs are not in the raw material itself, but in the process of turning it into something useful. This is called value addition. It's the key to building a strong and stable economy. A rough diamond is valuable, sure, but a cut and polished diamond set in a ring is worth vastly more. The person who just dug it out of the ground gets a tiny fraction of the final price. The cutters, the polishers, the designers, the jewelers, the marketers. That's where the wealth is created. By not having a strong manufacturing sector, African countries are essentially letting all that extra value get created somewhere else. You need reliable electricity, which is a major challenge in many countries. You need good roads and ports to move goods around efficiently. You need a skilled workforce, policies that support local businesses, and the benefits would be enormous. Jobs, logistics, maintenance, supply, services, and a rising middle class. Now it's easy to get bogged down in all the problems, but that's not the whole story. Across the continent, there are countries and people who are actively working to flip the script. One of the best examples is Botswana. At independence, it was one of the poorest countries in the world. They discovered diamonds. But instead of falling into the resource curse, they managed the wealth responsibly. They built strong institutions, invested in education and healthcare, and created a sovereign wealth fund. Another key area of progress is the push for transparency. The Extractive Industries Transparency Initiative encourages publication of payments. When numbers are out in the open, journalists, activists, and citizens can hold leaders accountable. Ghana processing more cocoa locally, Ethiopia building industrial parks for textiles, tech hubs rising across the continent. These are real shifts. They represent a fundamental shift in mindset from exporting raw materials to building diversified economies. It will require better governance, smarter policies, negotiation expertise, and long-term investments. Civil society, investigative journalism, and active citizens demanding transparency. These are hopeful signs. Every new school built with diamond money in Botswana, every chocolate factory opened in Ghana, moves the continent forward. And every citizen who stands up and demands transparency pushes progress along. The treasure chest is open, and it's time for everyone to share in its wealth. The wealth is there, the people are there. The journey is long, but with better governance, industrialization, and citizen action, Africa's incredible promise can be realized. Africa's story is still being written, and you're a part of it. If today's journey inspired you, don't let it stop here. Subscribe to our channel for more stories of hope, resilience, transformation from across the continent and beyond. Share this video with friends, with family, so the conversation grows even bigger. Don't forget to turn on notifications so you never miss a chance to learn, reflect, be inspired. Together we can keep unlocking potential, spreading knowledge, shining a light on the change makers shaping our world. Thank you for watching, and for being part of the movement.